Let me introduce my guest in studio. I have got former NAT Secretary General Wilson Sossion, who is the CAS. Mheshimiwa, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good morning, and good morning, our viewers.
Karibu sana. And the only lady in studio, Esther Kinyuri, nominated senator. Mheshimiwa, karibu sana.
Good morning. Thank you so much.
Very well. And Kilifi South Member of Parliament, Ken Chonga, also in studio with us. I had Sossion asking, how is Papa Namnyangumi down in the coast? Mheshimiwa, how is it?
How are you?
Karibu sana. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, 1 year on, before I get through the front page, so far, so good. How is Kenya? Mheshimiwa Ken.
Kenya is just there. It's still yet to be what's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right.
Quite a number of things are not in place, but we believe things will fix up. Yeah.
Step by step.
Step by step.
Mheshimiwa Esther, there's a point 1 year later. At a time like this, I know most of us were braving the morning call to cast their ballot. Mm-hmm. You can imagine the flashback. Mm-hmm. Where are we 1 year later?
1 year later, there's been so much development, even with the political disruptions.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want to give a rating, but doing very well because of the reforms and proposals that have been brought currently. We have now cabinet secretaries appearing to respond to questions from the parliament. Mm-hmm. The president has put up so many other task forces, like the task force on education that has come up with a funding model, which is really going to see vulnerable students benefit in getting affordable education. So many other reforms in the healthcare sector. For the first time, the county governments have received their disbursements, and I'm happy for a county like Bungoma, where Governor Lusaka has paid all the pending bills. So there are so many positive things to talk about the Kenya Kwanza administration. Yeah.
All right. You've talked about Governor Ken Lusaka. He'll be joining me later on in the program to talk about that, which is a very big improvement and a plus to him, having in mind that a majority of counties are still grappling with that pending bills. Mheshimiwa Sossion, this particular point, you must be a happy man taking back to the education sector, something which is quite close to your heart.
Of course,
yes.
Extremely happy because I casted my vote on 9th of August 2022 for a change in this country, a shift from the status quo, and to liberate this country from state capture of certain individuals who are doing business with the people of Kenya. And I'm happy the president is keeping to the plan that was voted for by the people of Kenya, with the 5 pillars. And the first pillar on agriculture, we can see pamba harvest and further strategic action, including tax waivers on raw materials for manufacturing farm inputs ranging from fertilizers to agrochemicals. And for the last season, we saw farmers access fertilizers at half the price that was existing during the handshake regime, down from 7,000 to 3,500, and now it's going down further to 2,500. And
donated,
the
though.
Impact.
Sorry?
The fertilizer is donated from Russia.
And
okay,
no, I think this is a civilized studio. Allow me to talk. Whether it's a donation is given for free, then even Kenya, the Azimio regime should have done that. But now we've seen the impact of fertilizers, the harvest, the trigger effect on harvest, on harvest, and therefore the cost of living is expected to come down. The micro, small, medium enterprise, the access to Hustler Fund, operating at over 30 billion and repayment at over 20 billion is a big platform that Kenyans are accessing. The digital superhighway and digitization of government services and expansion of digital access that is going to improve interaction and business and connectivity by Kenyans. The housing plan and the Finance Act that is going to enable all these programs to be done is on course. And number 5, the universal health care rollout, of course, is going to be concluded by 20th of October, and creative economy. But the most exciting thing for me are the transformative programs in the education sector. The president has implemented every clause and every bullet contained in the education charter, which is negotiated with stakeholders, and therefore we have a report that is going to facilitate implementation of many programs, including what Honorable Kanyuri has talked about.
This is going to be part of a discussion.
Funding model, revival of universities. Those who have eyes can see, and those who cannot see can feel
or even can hear. Very well. Now, that's going to be forming part of our discussion for the next 2 hours. I hope it's going to cover that. Now, let me take you through the front page of our local dailies. Let me start with the Star newspaper. Endless war. Ruto, Raila in combat 1 year on. Ruto, Raila in combat 1 year on. 12 months after polls, Kenya remains in a perpetual election mood. On a day like this 1 year ago, the two faced off in a hotly contested poll. Now, 1 year on, according to the clipboard here or the report card, Ruto and Raila can't agree on the final poll results. Number 2, there are no IEBC commissioners. Number 3, processes to replace Chebukati team stalled. 4, Cherera 4 forced out without pay, 1 now in exile. Again, IEBC evaluation report yet to be implemented. And finally, according to the Star newspaper, some opposition governors and MPs have joined government. We'll be taking a look at that very well. Mheshimiwa Ken, looking at this, endless war, Ruto, Raila, in combat 1 year on, election mood, persistent, perpetual mood?
It has been evident. There are so many stories going around about why Azimio is demanding to know, is demanding to have the servers being opened. And I think Azimio has a right to that. If Kenya Kwanza strongly believe that everything was above board, I don't see what is the big deal about auditing the servers. Because they would unearth under Azimio, if indeed they lost, they'll have to stop any stories about opening the servers. But the big question is, what is so difficult in opening the servers? These are property for Kenya. Kenyans are the ones who paid for it. And there, in an election, of course, there's a loser and a winner. And for as long as one is satisfied, yes, this is how he lost, he will have no questions to ask. But the reasons why Kenya Kwanza are not ready to open the servers, it means there's so much that is being hidden there, which is what is making actually Azimio to demand. But as you did put it, put that one aside. Kenya has been in a perpetual mode of electioning, I can say.
Courtesy of the politicians.
Yes. You see even what is going on right now. Today, Kenya Kwanza is Mount Kenya, giving so many promises. Tomorrow, I think this is the time when they're supposed to deliver on their manifesto. The other day they were in Coast. This today, the 5 days in Mount Kenya. What are they doing about the manifesto they promised to the Kenyans? Kenya Kwanza is actually not looking at the manifesto. It is looking at the 2027 elections. And this is where now value is lost. If we complain that the things that are not going right, I think the best important thing is sit down, fix those things. Not a question of going around and giving promises and promises and promises. Promises will not get us to where.
The last time I checked, the president was in the mountain for a development tour.
Yes.
CS. Were having their meeting in Sagana State Lodge. Cabinet meeting was in Sagana yesterday. For the first time that was happening. Commissioning development projects. Senator, what do you make of that statement? Perpetual mood, 1 year on. Kenyans have no space to breathe.
Unfortunately, anyone, I do not really understand why the Azimio faction can't stop bickering about the past election. Anyone who has hangovers about the past election, it's time to move on. Because Kenyans came out in large numbers and made a choice of whoever they want. The outcome and result was disputed. They went to the Supreme Court where the issue was canvassed extensively. And we all know what happens after that. So when you talk about issues of servers, right now we have an agenda of delivering to Kenyans, which we have done very well. Victor, I was in the first committee of bipartisan talks. And I want you to note that the president is the first person who gave a truce to Right Honorable Raila Odinga. But because they didn't see the essence of we engaging in talks, they opted to go for maandamano. Now that maandamano happened, then later they say we want to talk.
Yeah.
Then was maandamano really necessary? I think, and especially for the members of parliament, it's not our business as government side to organize the opposition. Currently, Azimio has been reduced to ODM because they are bullying even the other outfits within their coalition.
Is that the reality?
In parliament,
is that true?
That's a big lie.
The Senate,
they know where they lost it. In the first place, when we moved, when we were
the senators, Victor,
I think Abdano has been asked the question.
Have you asked him the question?
Okay, all right. I'll get you time to answer that. Are you bullying other affiliate parties? Go ahead.
I'm the one who had the audience.
Yes.
In Senate, after we amended standing orders to have CSs appear to respond to questions, the Azimio side has been constantly missing in action. Whereas I expect legislators to be accountable to their own people by appearing and canvassing matters, they are not on the streets. Because now we have a constitution that takes care of a wider way of handling issues other than what we've been seeing from our colleagues. And the president has been very categorical with his statements. He's very open. You see, the moment he was actually even elected, he started hosting delegations from people who didn't even support him politically, because it's a symbol of national unity. And you even look at it, the other day was in Nyanza, that's Kisii, Luo parts of Nyanza. He's been in the, down at the coast, launching very huge transformative initiatives that we as Kenyans who cast our votes for him, anticipate that really he should be steering us in that direction, which I think is doing very well, until our colleagues started bringing up the issue of maandamano as a reason, the issue of maandamano to canvass and really try to drag us into issues of like handshake. And when I talk about a handshake, that's a very poor leadership and governance experiment we ever experienced in this country. And we will never go back there. Not until they come up and say, really, that's not what they want. We saw the other agenda where of the now the new constituted teams talks that are meant to be engaged on. Cost of living was never there. Let Azimio come out and really state categorically what they want on the table. But if it's about sharing of power, that's not something we anticipated. Power is already devolved to county governments. Different departments of governments are doing their work. If there are issues we can discuss, let us discuss issues to do with ordinary people. Because at that point, then we converge. Because if it's the executive, they are serving through the executive to implement to the people. If it's the members of parliament are making laws and defending and airing what their people in their different areas want to listen to. So for me, the Kenya Kwanza administration is very focused from what we have actually articulated when we began this discussion. We are talking about this subsidized fertilizer, that for the first time, I have several feedbacks from my own village in Kenya of farmers who have actually received the fertilizer. That's the news we want to listen to. We do not want to listen to news of destroying property in your own country. Victor, a country where leaders cannot respect the rule of law is a country that is built on a weak foundation. We do not want Kenya to go to that end.
But just to clarify, Honorable Raila Odinga yesterday said in this press briefing that they are not interested in any handshake or government sharing deal yesterday. He also said that over the weekend.
If he may allow me.
If we're not getting anything right, are you interested in a handshake or sharing any position in government?
We don't want even an inch of that government. We want justice to go where it is. That's all.
I'll be interested to interrogate what this justice is all about. Mheshimiwa Sosion.
I think the Azimio brigade should begin smelling the coffee and extricate themselves from the slavery of Uhuru Kenyatta. That is what you're not seeing. And the day you will see this, you'll begin thinking better and working better in this country. Now they've been talking about the cost of living. Now they've dropped the cost of living. They've gone back to the server, auditing of the server. The server was open on the election day. All the results were transmitted to the portal by Wednesday 10, and you could download everything. The server was open. What is this server you are talking about? We don't understand. You canvassed it at the Supreme Court. Stop wasting time of Kenyans. If you are not interested in power sharing, then you cannot even talk about the server. I think this is just the activities of Azimio are choreographed and designed to disrupt the success of implementation of the programs by Kenya Kwanza.
Okay.
And that fundamentally is not going to work. It's what you call sabotage. You want to sabotage, talking about justice.
All right.
Which justice are you talking about? I think
as we continue this,
1 year down the line.
1 year down the line.
Year down the line.
Allow me to
1 year down the line. They're still talking about this.
Allow me to go to Kisumu. Allow me to go to Kisumu. We want to do a 360 check on what's happening. Allow me to go to Kisumu. I'll come back to you, I promise. That's exactly what's the front page of the Standard newspaper. 1 year on. On August 9th, 2022, Kenyans trooped to polling stations and made their intent known. The battle was between hustlers and the elite, between a bottom-up economic model where subsidies will only be awarded to production. A year later, we begin to look at the promises made versus the reality on the ground. Mheshimiwa Sossion, before we took that link, you are on your feet.
Yes, I was on my feet.
Go ahead.
First, rebutting the allegations from my good brother. And the main intention that Azimio is still chasing around and chasing the wind is hoping that some miracles will happen to give room to some power sharing. That's the reality. And should they fail in doing so, the intention is to throw into disarray the development agenda of Kenya Kwanza, because they know it's an attractive agenda. It cannot be done in a day. It's a process. It may take 1 or 2 years to realize the results. And once we realize the results, they know their goose is cooked in 2027. That's how you hear them talking about 2027. They're fixated about the next content, which is okay. They are welcome in 2027. But for now, the Kenya Kwanza manifesto is what needs to be implemented. And 1 year down the line, we are seeing the first financial act that is going to not only cure the misrule and ineptitude of management of the economy by the handshake regime, the economy which is in the doldrums with huge borrowings up to 9 trillion is a very difficult economy for anybody to manage, but it is also going to implement the Kenya Kwanza manifesto. Now, if you look at the agenda, before you ask,
just a minute, the Kenya Kwanza said that they inherited a dilapidated economy.
That's a fact.
1 year down the line, have things changed?
1 year down the line, if you look at the statistics from Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, because let us not talk out of imaginations and wishes. If you talk out of imaginations and wishes, we are not going to get anywhere. If you can see consistently for the last 3 months from Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, the rate of inflation is coming down. Those are economic indicators of an economy that is stabilizing. The most immediate thing that Kenya Kwanza had to do was to put in place measures that would stabilize and lead the country to serious economic recovery from where it was. Stop borrowing and borrowing to pay salaries. That was the norm. And borrowing from the banks of individuals who are in government. It's wrong. We must stop it. It has been stopped. And the grand plan, if you look at the handshake regime, the investments were basically on capital development. And in capital development, that's where there's corruption. And the production sector has been neglected. The sugar sector is dead. The milk sector was being destroyed with adulterated milk imported from outside by individuals who were monopolizing the milk sector, the cartels in the coffee sector, the cartels in tea industry. Even they were getting to fish industry, importing fish from China. What are you going to do with the fish farmers in Kisumu who are hardworking? And I think these are the measures that have been put in place, even the taxation measures that is going to stop importation of certain goods that can be manufactured locally and availed locally by hardworking Kenyans will be realized through the Finance Act. Generally, yes, Kenya Kwanza will continue without any interference, injecting resources and supporting the production sector of the economy. That will be done. And it's not going to be realized. Even the impact of fertilizers, whether my brother says it's free from Russia, why didn't handshake regime get the free fertilizers? Because that is what Kenyans needed. So the Kenya Kwanza will continue promoting the production sector of the economy. And as you have seen, there's been a lot of activities and conferences around the tea farmers and the tea farmers. Once the cartels are off the way and the marketing streamlined, value addition done. Allow me to finish.
I'm to respond.
Thank you.
I can see it's burning. Let me just respond to that.
Thank you. I want to make some issues here to be very clear.
Go ahead.
Kenya Kwanza is seriously confusing people. One, Azimio does not want anything called handshake. It has been repeated several times. So if they have anything to say, let them say something else. Let them not talk about handshake. Otherwise, even in our agenda, it would be there. They have never seen it. Two, the other thing that Kenya Kwanza is confusing Kenyans. All these attractions, the talk here is between Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, not between Kenya Kwanza and Uhuru, as my friend is trying to allege. Uhuru should not be put in any of this matrix. Let be the agenda of Kenya Kwanza.
He's the Grand Master of Azimio.
I thought you were civilized.
He's the Grand Master of Azimio.
I thought you were civilized. That is what you said. So you are telling me otherwise. The other thing, Victor, these people are talking about the Finance Act. I really wonder whether my colleagues really read that Finance Act properly. And were it not that there were no anomalies, the judges would not have known. Refuted it. How come the court actually could not uphold it? There is a reason. My friend, the promises that are being made by Kenya Kwanza, they were replicated in that Finance Act. You see at the estimates, highly exaggerated. And when the estimates are highly exaggerated like that, that is a recipe for corruption. I was asking in Parliament the other day, Kenya is not going to war. Kenya is not anticipating any war. Why should we appropriate 145 billion to KDF? For what? And even if that was the situation, I am very sure there would be many other ways of going about this. But Victor, what is very, very important for me, as much as they're celebrating about inflation going down, the indicator of how an economy is doing will be known by the behavior of the stock exchange. If the stock exchange is stable, that is an indicator that that country is getting the right way. If the stock exchange is the way it is, as it is behaving right now, you can for sure tell that there's something that is wrong. Even speculators do not want to speculate because they can see there's the danger coming there. And it's not that they don't see it.
So what's the economy like right now?
There is still so much uncertainty about the Kenyan economy. Investors, I think you have heard the other day, quite a number of them have moved to Tanzania. Because looking at the physical policy, the way it has been planned, honestly, they do not see a situation where the cost of production will at any time go down. So, if that is the case, why don't you move to the neighbors? The taxes are highly exaggerated. You know, I am afraid those taxes that have been put, some of them will be historical because they have never been seen. Taxing things like, you know, content, intellectual content. You know, these are hustler. He has no job. He's just come up with something, maybe on TikTok, you want to tax him. Kina mamas, they rely on these vyamas to educate their children, and whatever the merry-go-round, you want to tax them. What is there remaining not to be taxed? Maybe our blood. And I can see Kenya Kwanza going there. You are a bit strong, you have to donate your blood. They do not want to respect the rule of law at all. My brother Sosyon is in the office illegally, and he knows that. It doesn't mean that he doesn't know.
Which office?
Because as a CIS, they were not laid off.
Are you in office, Mr. Sosyon?
He will deny because we're on the camera. But I know from here he's going to his office.
No, that is not the subject matter for discussion.
No, it is, because we're talking about celebrating the 1 year.
You should withdraw that statement because
I will have to
judicial and
that
out
later
of
on.
place. That is not a matter
because there's
for
a court case to
discussion.
that, right?
There is a court case to that, but the guys are still in office.
Let's rest that. Senator Esther, a lot of allegations and fire coming from that. Mr. Sosyon, you'll also take a time to respond to that, whether you are going, I don't know which office, or you are going to...
I don't respond to trivial comments.
Okay.
Street comments. Those are street comments.
Fair enough.
You can call them whatever.
Those are street comments.
When you look at...
Let me say this.
Go ahead. In relation to the economy, as we are right now, the indicators, Mr. Sosyon said that...
I want to go back to other issues that have been raised here that I wanted to give my voice to, especially on governance manenos. You know, Victor, when immediately the president was sworn in, he had promised to actually regularize the appointment of the 6 judges, which he immediately did. And the president has been very categorical that he's going to stand with the constitution and respect. And when he says that, it means respecting whatever the judges or the courts have ruled. And he also has room to appeal in where maybe he does not feel like they have ruled in the manner in which he thinks is, you know, in favor of what he stands for or thinks is correct. So when we actually talk about the several court rulings that have come up, you've not seen the president dispute, because he swore to protect and stand with the constitution. That he has rightfully done. Unlike the previous regime where there was total disregard of court orders and several other political engineered arrests that we saw. Nowadays we don't see Kamata Friday, where someone is just arrested on Friday and they are not charged up to Monday, you know. We've not seen that, and you can attest to that. If I make reference to what my colleague Honorable Sosyon was mentioning, yes, the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics gave a the consumer price index that is indicating the now current retail prices of different commodities. And really, we can see the cost of living is gradually coming down. What my colleague from Kilifi fails to tell you, even the Tanzanians is making reference to. I saw the papers writing even cost of fuel has gone up on the other side. So citizens must always be told the truth on the scenario on the ground. We are coming from a regime where, Victor, we had delayed disbursements to counties. When I make comparison to this regime, for the first time, money has been disbursed to all counties. And I gave an example of the governor of Bungoma who has actually taken a step to pay all pending bills. There's no noise from Bungoma. We are coming from a regime where we were defaulting even to pay road contractors. Currently, the president, in all the visits he's been undertaking, he's checking on the pending construction programs and pending bills. And that has been prioritized because that is what matters to ordinary people.
Yes.
If people have accessible roads, even the women will get to hospitals quickly for delivery. Children will get to school to access education. Any other person will get very easily to their place of business to make a living and feed their families. We are coming from a regime where there was heavy borrowing, which the current president is putting to a stop. And is doing that through, he has even signed so many bilateral agreements that are bringing so much investment to this country. Victor, there's so much to talk about this government. By September 2022, when the president was being sworn in, we only had 380 services available online. Now we have more than 5,000 services available online. And the moment we get fully operational into the agreement we have with Safaricom, guys will just be operating from their smartphones. That is what it means to make an environment, you know, easy for any other ordinary person to thrive in. We do not want to talk about satisfying one individual who constantly does not want to accept the outcome of an election. Victor, most of the leaders who are leading this country to destruction, who want to see this country burnt into ashes. The other time I was here, I made reference, and I'll still make the same utterances. Someone like Right Honorable Raila Odinga was first elected in 1992. I was being born. Martha Karua was admitted to the bar in 1981. My mother was in school. Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka was elected in 1986. My mom was still in school. These are people who have already secured the lives of their own children. Some of their children represent this country in the East African Legislative Assembly. They are the same people who want to take advantage of sons and daughters of nobodies whose parents' names are not in history books to come destroy property and eventually even lose their lives in the process. Victor, we would rather even quarrel and argue in a boardroom in the name of talks, other than me as Okenyuri witness a young person of my age die in the streets in the name of satisfying the quest of one person who will constantly reject the outcome of a legitimately elected president.
Okay.
This administration is in the right direction in dealing with the cost of living, and apparently that's why our counterparts in Azimio didn't have it in the priority of the talks that were signed. You saw it, it was aired in all the media houses. We didn't see the issue of cost of living. So now that it's very evident, it's not cost of living that they have been agitating all the way in the streets. Let them come out and say what it is they really want.
Okay.
Because the issue of result was canvassed at the Supreme Court, and they know that very well. The issue of IBC, which I'm very sorry to even note that we have constituencies which are lacking representation, like Banisa, where we lost. Some
places have not, they were supposed to have a by-election.
Now in Kisii, in Nyamira recently, we lost an MCA through a road accident of Nyamai Award. May his soul rest in peace. These are constituents who are going to lack representation because of the stalemate we are having. But the Constitution is very clear on how it's meant to be done. How would, you know, when people know clearly what the law states, and I want to commend the framers of the current constitution because it caters for most of the issues. The Azimio side is opting to prosecute in the streets where they belong.
All right. I need some help in the studio. Producer, director, and I need some bouncers around here. Okay.
But you are the one fueling it.
No.
You're not controlling the... Yes, you fuel it and then you ask for bouncers.
I did some security.
We shall evict you.
Okay. Before you evict me,
I was one who was coming in on the phone.
In 1 second, then I'll give it to Mheshimiwa Sosion. Go ahead.
Mine will not be 1 second. I wanted to make things clear here. That even the air that we are breathing right now, the celebration of the current constitution we are in also has a history. It just never came like that. When we start blaming Azimio for this or for this, let us also know that the 2010 constitution, there was a constitution before that. where actually the rule of law was not observed. Let us not forget, at one point, I think sometime in 1992, Kenya was a single-party state. People had to fight to achieve that. Let us not forget that even for Kenya to be free today, people had to sacrifice. We had Mau Mau who went to the forest to fight the white man so that we can be free. So let us not demonize everything of the past because we are now celebrating a new constitution. That would be very, very wrong. But said and done, I think the agenda here is 1 year later, 1 year after Kenya Kwanza has taken over the government. What is that we can be able to smile about? Or what is that we are going to smile about? I'm sorry, I have nothing to celebrate. I have nothing to celebrate, and one that is making even the matter worse is the Finance Act. Let somebody go into that act and look at it very, very critically and carefully. That is what is going to tell us that life is going to be even much more difficult. There is no way an economy will thrive just by taxing its citizen to the last drop of his blood. No way, and it has never been seen.
Okay.
We need to encourage production. Right. We need to encourage manufacturing. Okay. We need to encourage investment. Is our law encouraging investment for the youth to get jobs? Let's not talk about the housing sector is going to create I don't know how many jobs. For how long? What type of jobs? Somebody goes to the university, he's a lawyer, and kubeba mawe because he doesn't have anything to do. And you tell we call that a job?
I hear you, sir. I donated 2 minutes from Mr. Sosion's time. Sosion, you're on air. The question as you respond to this, moving forward, as we enter the second year, a lot of expectation, even based from what we hear from our correspondents in Mombasa and Kisumu, how are we going to change the whole narrative so that at the end of the day, the government has to work, the president has to deliver, opposition must also do their check and balances as far as you're concerned.
The question is, has the president really not delivered 1 year down the line? The president has, and there are significant indicators. And has the opposition played their role? No. They are very busy wasting time and promoting terrorism activities in the streets that are destroying property, that are not communicating at all.
Terrorism activities?
And, terrorism activities, yes. Those are, when you vandalize people's property, you vandalize shops, you vandalize property of those poor vendors, you vandalize even mortuaries, you vandalize roads. Those are terrorism activities. Think of anything else, but those are terrorism activities. They don't pass the threshold of even being called demonstration. That's what they're doing for the opposition should accept. And you have asked one good question about the talks. Were there agreements? So you cannot formulate the terms of reference right now when it was already formulated and agreed with the 5-point issues. That number one is the constitution of IEBC, because there are 2 constituencies doing without members of parliament. And
we all agree that has to happen.
No, yes.
Because the commissioners are not in place. So.
It's my time, and allow me to ventilate. So if it was agreed that IEBC is a primary agenda, so let it be it. Let that committee deal with that. If it was agreed that creating the office of the leader of the opposition so that we can take Azimio from the streets and give them a dignified platform of checking government where they can be supported with government infrastructure.
You people, your mouths are full of chest thumping, vengeance. You don't want to see where the reality is. That is the bad thing about you, Sosion.
Victor,
call a spade a spade.
Victor,
I'll not sit here to be called a terrorist. I'd rather walk out of this studio, my friend.
No, you
I also have a language I can use.
Have to.
Yes, I can.
Give him time.
The other day when I called the murderers, what did you tell me?
It was agreed.
Okay.
He has to withdraw that.
The IEBC, I'm not withdrawing. It was agreed. Entrenching the office of the leader of the opposition. It was agreed entrenching the national government, CDF, in the constitution. It was agreed 2/3 gender rule, and And those are critical parameters that they need to talk about, and they agreed. And you see, a president cannot just accede to a meeting without clear parameters. And I think the president has taken time to state very clearly that things to do with power sharing is not part of the discussion, and therefore the party should be able to prosecute their matters within that parameter. Trying to jump the agreement and bring in other issues is creating further confusion. 1 year down the line, and I think it's good we speak of specific issues. And I'll move you to the education sector. And don't forget, the president signed charters with all the 47 counties and special interest groups, including educators. And education is a key undertaking in this country that affects every household. Number one, because teachers are central and fundamental, the matter of delocalization of teachers has been abolished as a policy. And now teachers are more stable and they can work. Number two, matters to do with the training of teachers through TBD modules. That was also abolished because it was affecting teachers. Number three, a further 55,000 teachers have been employed, and that is going to protect quality in our public schools. Number four, salaries of teachers and other workers have been reviewed at the rate of 7 to 9% for the next 2 financial years, despite a biting economic time, including you, everyone in government sector. And this is a very conscious understanding by the president that the workers in government must be protected and cushioned against inflation. And that surprised everybody because that was a necessary step to undertake. And then very lastly, the Presidential Working Party on Education and Reforms, which now has actualized and implemented the many promises that were signed in the charter, including one, funding of schools through the minimum essential package. The small schools will get more funding. ECD children that they were not getting any funding before will now be entitled to at least 1,170 shillings. The primary school children in the public schools, their capitation has gone up to over 2,000 shillings. And if you look at the address of the CBC, the entire confusion that was brought in by the previous regime has been cleaned up. And if you look at it in the structure of education, early childhood, primary and junior school have been lumped and consolidated into what you call a comprehensive school and availed closer to the households through the current existing primary schools at affordable cost. This is going to bring down the cost of education and improve access and, of course, quality. The senior secondary schools will remain models, will remain pathways within the current existing secondary schools to support the pathways. And when you look at university funding model, which people are confused about, the Azimio are still trying to get confused. I saw a letter by Opio Wandai. The model that has been developed is going to bring the universities out of their financial mess. And government has enhanced 54 billion to 84 billion for universities. And all the higher education loans board from 13 billion to 30 billion. And when you look at all these significant activities, to me, no government, even Azimio, didn't have such a plan. They wanted to walk in, continue with protecting the businesses of the dynasties, and continue exploiting Kenya. But when I look at this in terms of funding model and all this money that has been ring-fenced for universities and TVETs will be funded through the students. It shall not be wired directly.
Fair enough.
And it will be funded through full scholarships for children from poor households. So children from poor households will really get absolute full scholarship, and the number is about 45,000. The data is there in what you call Kenya Education Management Information System.
Thank you.
And that will be done. And so when you look at when all these programs will roll and will be in place, we will run one of the most competitive education system that any country can mount in Africa.
Because it is
the presidential working party,
education is the equalizer.
Education and reforms, once implemented,
yes,
is going to correct all the problems that we've had over the years. And therefore, the Ruto administration is working scientifically, meticulously, and empirically.
Right.
Some of the significant indicators will be felt with time.
Okay, thank
if
you,
we talk about the cost of fuel,
let me come
cost of fuel is higher in Tanzania and Uganda. When you get down to the cost of living,
no. Let me come to Senator Okenyuri. We still have enough time here, around 15 minutes to go. Let me come to Senator. Senator, looking at the pointers, maybe in 1 minute or in two, what are some of the pointers, the hits and misses to this point 1 year later of the administration? Okay. I'll come to you again.
I'll respond to that shortly, but before, let me just mention this. It's actually callous, reckless, and unpatriotic that Azimio insists on this country not having an electoral management body, and at the same time refraining from bipartisan talks that are actually meant to address this issue. Think about that. So coming back to our hits and misses, I want to talk largely about the progresses we've made. Victor, for the first time, we are having cabinet secretaries attend to be held responsible. That was one of the priorities the president had when he was campaigning. But look at our colleagues on the other side. They have not been able to show up in those sittings. I'm giving the instance of the Senate. At the Senate, members of the Azimio side don't appear during question time. On whether that's my business or not, their citizens, the Kenyans who elected them should be taking them to account. Look at what the president, the bilateral agreements that the president has been signing with world high-end net worth countries. Those are issues we need to look at, and all those leaders have been visiting Kenya because they realize our president is someone with a plan. And imagine within a short time, he's been able to reorganize government. Even the manner in which he runs the cabinet is quite telling. And like the previous experiences we've had, where people would just sit somewhere and agree. We have a president who's very hands-on on issues. He would even tell you a road that is from Nyamasaria and maybe to Kisumu. He knows that whole place. Why am I saying that? Whatever this government is implementing is a people-driven way of addressing issues. That's why during our campaigns, we were going across the counties, getting to hear what Kenyans wanted in different areas, and we signed charters in the different county governments in the different area. We even had a youth charter, a women charter, which even honored by having so a good number of women in the cabinet and different areas. I'm a beneficiary of such charters that were signed. And I'm not saying where every other aspect has been met, but largely we are sticking to what we picked from Kenyans. We will not be giving solutions that are aimed at addressing needs we are not aware of. We are aware of these needs, and the president has been very key. He went across the whole country. When I actually say that for the first time counties have received their disbursements on time, no one has come out to dispute that because it's the truth. He who alleges must prove.
As the burden of proof.
You know.
On a scale of 1 to 10. On a scale of 1 to 10.
I do not want to go there because no matter how much you want to rate us, within a span of 1 year, we've exceeded the expectations of even those people who never had any admiration for this government. And you see, let me tell you, gone are the times when two people sat in Muthaiga and made decisions on behalf of the people of Homa Bay or Nyamira or Kwale. We have more than 50 million Kenyans who came to make a decision. And whatever we are implementing is as a result of the needs we had from them then. So we are still listening. And that's why the president has been revamping so many sectors. Guys from Western Kenya will now be participating in the cotton industry aggressively. So many farmers have already been given seedlings on the same. the subsidized fertilizer I'm talking about, the uncompleted projects. How do you want Mama Mboga to get their products to the market if there are no readily available markets? When I even talk about counties, we have the Ministry of Trade that got into an agreement with the COG to have the county industrial aggregation parks, which are going to be a very huge avenue to boost investment and add on the value chain, where I'm looking forward to many young people and women being involved. That is a way to grow our counties and our economy by putting a lot of emphasis on local production. Really, Kenya, why would we import shoes while butter in Limuru can do the same thing we are seeing? That is what, you know, when people look at the other issues, they forget whatever measures, even the Finance Act you're talking about, is meant to boost our local production. Because the other time we were here, we even have issues of our Uber drivers, like let's say in Nairobi. They are paying so much to international mobile developers, whereas we can have our own young people who are developing those applications to boost business.
It's 9th of August. It's 9th of August. And Senator, you are in the first committee, the bipartisan talks. I'll give you 1 minute to respond to that as we come to a close on what you should expect. Mheshimiwa Chonga.
1 year down the line.
1 year down the line.
Victor, Article number 1 of the Constitution. As
opposition, have you delivered?
Article number 1 of the Constitution, sovereignty belongs to the people. The rule of law, Kenya, as you look at it today, we have been subjected back to the dark ages, where a man has no voice, where a man cannot choose what he wants, where a man cannot dictate the destiny of his life. That's where we are. You can remember very well, immediately the administration of Kenya Kwanza came in, the first thing was to witch hunting. You saw what happened to Matiang'i, just because he was in the former regime. But this government had the audacity even to raid the former president's farm, to raid the former president's son.
Yes.
For reasons not actually not known. That guy is not that man is not a criminal. Where are we going?
That's it.
I have been arrested twice. Hello. I was arrested in the first time we were demonstrating here without doing anything. Taken to Kiambu, taken to where, to Thika, where. Just the other day, when I was holding my petition that I was going to take to the DCC, you saw what happened to me. I was put in 6 days. There was no mandamano, there was no demonstration. Just by the feel that you are going to take the petition, that is what Kenya is all about today.
A quick question.
Look here, a man who is not free.
Right.
Give him bread, give him whatever he wants to be. For as long as that man is free, he will be free.
A quick question as we come to a close. Do we have hope for this country as we head to the second year?
The hope, I cannot say I'm so pessimistic about everything.
Very good.
One, where we lost it is by actually engaging CSs who some of them didn't even know go to school. And you know that. So what do you expect from that?
That's far-fetched.
It's not very far-fetched. It's not for you to accept. You can take it or leave it.
Before the Senate.
I don't even need to mention them. I don't need even to mention them, but they're there, all there. For you to be a commander,
I will have to investigate that.
No, you can investigate, but, and you.
As far as I'm concerned, I think
invite me another time. Maybe you'll have realized, known by that time.
But do we have hope? Because we are running out of time. Do we have hope?
Well, if things change, not the way they are going.
All right.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa Senator, hope for this country?
Victor, hope is the last thing that dies in man. And going back to you wanted me to actually talk about the talks.
Yes. Exactly.
And I said it's actually callous, reckless, and unpatriotic for Azimio to keep insisting on this country not having an electoral management body, and at the same time move away from the talks that want to address this issue. Is that how God forbid? God, it was not in the agenda that was actually released.
No, it's in the agenda
released
now
to the media houses.
She was
no, that's a
and
big lie to the nation.
The president,
You've given your final remarks. The
president,
yes, Senator.
The president has always been very clear in his utterances, and him as a symbol of national unity. Really, hands are wide open. He has always extended an olive branch to any other dissenting voices, and he has led from the front. He has accommodated most of the guys who didn't even participate in this campaign.
We have hope.
Hope is the last thing that
Thank you so much. Mr. Osion, tumalizie.
Listening to some of the comments, I wonder whether some people live in Kenya and whether we want to promote lawlessness in this country and setting the constitution aside. I want to state very clearly that Kenya Kwanza, and I'm stating as an independent Kenyan, an experienced leader, drawn from labor movement, and you can see the labor movement is strongly supporting the government because we can see the indicators of growth in the social sector and the promise of resolving unemployment crisis in this country. Yes. I can say this country is a democratic country and we have grown democratically. And the space of growth in democracy should not be limited by lamentations which have even come to media houses by the opposition. The opposition should rise to the occasion and play their role of checking government. Yeah. The government will continue promoting constitutionalism and the rule of law, and even the engagement in the bipartisan talks should be within the constitution and the rule of law. And the president has stated very clearly that one, things to do with handshake, those ones are completely unavailable.
You people are drunk with that statement.
The demonstrations to destroy the country. That's a fact. When you even talk of opening the server.
What language do you want us to use?
Now you've gone back to the server.
No. What language do you want us to use to understand that?
Lastly, the president has stated very clearly.
Talk of something else. Don't talk about handshake. We don't want handshake.
No, you had your time.
You can loot the country. You can kill people there. You
had your time. You had your time. The truth is always bitter. If you are not bitter about it, if it is not true, then it should not be.
We are running out of time. Thank you.
And the president has stated very clearly the terrorist activities in the name of demonstration of the country should not exist anymore.
Thank you so much.
This country will be a country of the rule of law, and we will see the growth of the economy and the economy.
Happy birthday, Kenya Kwanza.
Thank you so much for watching us. Thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Should familiarize himself with the penal code.
Ken Chonga, Member of Parliament, Kilifi South, Esther Kenyuri, nominated Senator, and former NAT Secretary General Wilson Osion, who is now CS. All right, thank you so much. Second year, we'll be here waiting to see, taking stock of what's happening. Thank you so much for coming. Are you friends?
Make sure, yes.
Are you friends?
We have been friends even before Parliament.
No, make sure we are with him in the next Parliament.
Thank you.
On 9th of August next year.
Yes,
thank you so much.
Make sure on that day he's there. I want we come and take stock of this again.